Welkom bij Sewing After Hours. Wij zijn Magali van de Sewing Loft en
Tamara van de Fashion Basement en wij zijn hier met onze podcast en YouTube-show om jouw naaimomentjes nog gezelliger te maken.
welkom bij terug een nieuwe aflevering van Sewing After Hours. En vandaag hebben we terug een gast in onze studio, maar op een iets andere manier dan dat je het gewoon bent. Want ze voegt ons erbij via Zoom. En ik heb dat altijd al in mijn leven willen zeggen. Live from New York.
Cynthia! Cynthia, welcome. So, for our viewers, listeners, you are a costume designer. I've worked with you on a couple of projects, but who else can better explain what you do and who you are than yourself?
Well, hello, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, for joining us.
Well, my name is Cynthia Nordstrom, and I'm a former fashion design student who turned costume somewhere in the middle of her career. So I design, basically anything that comes my way: live tours, ice shows, stage shows, commercials, TV shows, styled. I mean, anything from shopped to completely custom.
Yeah. So, you mentioned that you started out as a fashion student and then turned to costumes. How did that go? Why did you make that switch?
Well, I was a theater kid growing up. I did shows by the age of 5, and I think I definitely always filled out the paper I was going to be an actress. So I shows. I wore costumes, everything. I loved the theater. And when it came time for college, I thought I should have something else in case I don't make it as a star on Broadway. And I had learned to sew in the 2nd grade from my grandmother, who was a seamstress. And I'd always been very artistic, art classes, and making things with my grandmother. So I thought, why not fashion designer? Why not be that? And also do acting. So that's what I pursued in college. So I have a Bachelor of Science, an engineering degree, basically in fashion. And all the time doing shows on the side. And then, I don't know, I felt like I was going to be too lonely in the world of fashion. So how to combine this, which was a natural combination, was to do costume design.
So eventually your backup plan became your life choice as well. Yeah, your path.
Yes. And I had blessed parents that didn't think that was crazy. So that was very helpful, because fashion, as you all know, is quite a tough field as well. And so anyway, I had very nice support. And, you also, if you love something, you work very hard, which is helpful. And yes, I was able to combine 2 loves. So it worked out.
Obviously, we're really curious what you're working on right now. Is it a musical? Is it a stage show? Is it an ice skating show? What are you working on?
Oh, well, it's funny, as a designer in the industry, sometimes you only have one project, but in general, you're also on a couple of things at the same time because of how they sequence through the year, and you do work. It's mentality. So a few projects throughout the year. So right now, just these past couple of months, I've had a lot of different variety, I think, in my projects. I just finished a tour for Mattel's Monster High, which is a doll line. So I don't know if that's known over there. So of course, that's very pop and very exciting. I do love bringing animated characters or made up fanciful characters for the first time in live. in live format. So that is something that I've sort of fallen into for the last 20 years. And I continue to come up with ways to make it look exactly like you see it on the screen, but yet it's right there in front of you. So I just finished that. I'm working right now on immersive shows for a new cruise ship. And I will start in a week or two on a new parade for Universal Studios over in Japan.
Oh, wow. That's something you've worked for before, right?
Yes. Yes, they have been a wonderful partner to create with. And goodness, I think this is like close to 18 years with them. So yeah, now I'm developing Pokemon and expanding their Nintendo with them. And also lots of other colorful things, but those are the new parts.
So that's so it's really the costumes that you make and that you develop, or is it only the sketches, or how do we see it, your day-to-day work?
Well, this is my messy studio right now, but generally right here is my big drafting board. I still hand draw ideas, like here's one just hanging around. And then some of them I then bring to the computer to do the graphics and digital enhancements. But yes, I do the art through the whole production, and then I oversee the construction.
Obviously, a lot of costume designers start out as assistants or maybe wardrobe technicians or making costumes. Was that the case for you, or did you always do design jobs?
Oh, no, that's absolutely true, Tamara. Absolutely. So my first, right out of college, when I was like wondering if, I could do costumes, I drove my car right down to Walt Disney World in Florida and said, "Oh, I'm here. I'm a fashion student. I just came from Paris. Hire me." And, they look at you like you're crazy. And that's not how the industry goes at all, by the way. But they were a big company and they needed someone who knew how to take care of clothes. So I started backstage doing laundry for them, taking care of shows, doing laundry, nothing creative. And then sometimes I got put on special events where there would be stars that needed to wear costumes, and I had to be there to sew them in because they started to see I had some skill sets that were very useful. And so for that part, I really was not glamorous at all and just doing laundry until a day came where I had a break and I sketched something up for a little show of theirs that wasn't doing well, and an Imagineer took a chance on me. And then that started my design career with Disney. And then I had to start all over when I came back to New York because that was amazing. But I wanted to do that work out of the tri-state area and closer to Broadway and the fashion district and everything else. So when I came back here to be in the union as a costume designer, I had to go backwards a little bit. I had to find a Broadway designer to work for and be an assistant at least once.
Yeah, the laundry part is so relatable.
It's important.
Yes, but it's so cool that you did that with Disney and got a chance there and stayed with Disney for so long, because that's one hell of a growth within one company. It's really nice to see, actually.
Oh, thank you. It was the right place and the right time, which, it's a phrase, but I believe in it.
Also, right place, right time, but also talent. Because if there's no talent and no hard work, then it's not gonna happen. So,
and a bold move.
Yeah, and a bold move, Magali said. well, if you see the opportunity, always just take it.
Absolutely.
So the shows you used to work on at Disney, were those the live shows that go ahead in the park? Did you ever transfer to, I don't know, maybe the Disney on Ice or the movie side of productions at Disney?
Yeah, it's funny. So I was so very young. I was actually the youngest designer they had ever employed. And that was limited to bodies and stage shows, a lot of dancers. I always wanted to do Mickey. I wanted to give him a wardrobe, but they were very strict with their rules and did not see me as capable for that part of design, and really just focused me on live event. So I worked hard, and then I was able to do, it's a live show that doesn't exist anymore, but Tarzan Rocks, which went even over to Paris and was quite successful. And it was a very large budget. And we produced the clothes in New York at the best costume houses out of the city, which was mind-blowing for me. And that sort of opened my world to New York, because I thought, wow, I now know all these resources. I better get to New York before they forget me. And I left Disney after 5 years without ever really putting any clothes on Mickey or Minnie or any of those guys, which was fine. And then I worked on Broadway as an associate. And through that work, met a company that actually was responsible for the Disney on Ice and Disney Live. And that's how I got to actually do my first shows with all the characters and everybody. It was after I had actually left the property. So it kind of came full circle. It was funny. But that was very exciting. I was there. I worked on shows that, let's see, I did the first characters for Brave and Tinkerbell, Pixar's Tinkerbell, and all of the fairy friends, Silver Mist, Rosetta, all those guys, which was awesome. Let's see, funny things like Phineas and Ferb stage show, which, you know, that took engineering. So my design work, it's either straight clothes or it's absolute engineering, mechanics, sometimes electrics, and now robotics even at times if needed.
Yeah, and obviously I got to work with you a couple of times. I think it's 4 or 5 times we got to work together. What I think of you as a designer is that you are not just a designer who designs something and then just tell people to make it work and make it look like this or that, and then just turn around, walk off, and like do your thing, come back with it, finish, and it should be fine. It should be exactly what I thought it was. But you have so much technical abilities to help construct and help think about ways and just put the thing together and work with the people who make your costumes. I think starting out where you did just helped you so much in that journey too, because I think that's an amazing thing for a designer to have as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, the world of the creators and the custom seamstresses and milliners and all these artisans that you come in contact with, that's half the fun of doing this job, because you just meet so many talented people and you get to, you know, take an idea with them and work with them, and it can become even something bigger than you ever thought if you take that little time. And it's always worth it. And I'm a little crazy about color and what has to match and everything. So that part of it's me. But in general, it's because I don't know, you make friends along the way. And then if you're fortunate enough, you get to come back and work with them again. And then you know what their their abilities and their finest talents about. Like Tamara, she was one of my head millinery creators and designers, and she could take something absolutely crazy and she would build it and it would be lightweight, and then we'd add the fact that it maybe needs to be jewelry or sparkle, and it just, everything gets just a little touch from the person who works on it, and that's what's so special as well.
And what is the project that you did that is closest to your heart or has the most fondest memories?
Ooh. Well, let's see, on a large scale, and it was one of my largest projects, working for Marvel on their first live arena show, will always be up there because of just the dynamic between the two companies and working with the artists from Marvel and then the creators all around the world for the different things we needed. That was pretty special. And then the other not weird project, I did a large musical in Amsterdam during COVID, which, we don't need to say anything more. That time was crazy. But I gotta say, having the ability to work on something and to leave my country and the crazy behind and to just be with friends and create something beautiful, that is right up there as one of my favorites.
It definitely was a challenging time at some points. Also, to make things work during COVID wasn't easy, but in the end, the result was really, really nice. Absolutely. So, what I want to know from you, Cynthia, because obviously I know a bit of your backstory, but are there any projects that you have like on a wish list of things you would love to do in your career still?
Well, yeah, yes, always. I've done a lot of off-Broadway, and I've only done a concert form for Broadway. So of course, I would like to take a turn at a large-scale production for Broadway or West End. So that's working on that. But that is absolutely still on my list. I would like to do a TV show. However, I've only done reality based, so more fashion and faster and less time, which is great and fine, but it would be great to do something that required maybe a different decade or more historical research. That would be really great. But yeah, no, I hope to get close to. We shall see.
Maybe a big Las Vegas show in there?
That would be, yes. You know what? I glossed right over that. Yeah, no, I go there and see the shows, but yes, that would be something that required a few rhinestones at least. So, absolutely Las Vegas. But yeah, so this year I'll have tried the cruise ship, which I've never done before. But yeah, we still have a bit of categories to get through.
And don't forget about Mickey and Minnie as well.
Oh, well, I do them all the time. They have quite a closet from me. So yes, I would do another. It's always a pleasure to work with Disney. So, yes, I enjoy. I would like to go. I would like to work for Disney, maybe over in Asia or Paris. That would be exciting since I've done it around here.
Yes, and you also know the people in Paris who work on their costumes, so.
Yes, I do. Some of my favorite shops. So yes, that would be just fun to do.
From all of the different kinds of shows that you did, like musical, ice skating, live show, as you said, like TV, reality, more fashion, what are the type of shows that you like best or like suit your style best?
Well, I mean, my style changes. I love contemporary shows. I love when there is a high production, like an art production value. It's the concept is more planned. So if it's a modern show, I love that, but I want to feel the art choices, sort of like Amelie or City of Angels, where there's a radical idea about what colors are being used in front of you. Um, so things become more of a painting. So I do like that. And then of course, musicals are great because it's sort of like anything goes. You lift other rules away. But I do, in general, I love to make custom works. So those type of shows that don't come off of an Amazon list,
Mhm.
those are the ones that you yearn for.
Yeah. As you said, like costumes get crazier these days. There's robotics involved and stuff like that. What's the craziest costume you've ever done?
Oh, uh, there's been a lot. Um, generally, generally, my assistants around here, they hear me say often, "Oh, why can't it just be a pretty dress?" And she just stand and walk across the stage, and it's just a pretty dress. Because usually I get the creations that need to do something, or fight, or yeah, light up. So I think the extremis villains, they were some of my hardest because they had to look like they seethed and turned into fire. Plus, they were stuntmen, so I developed a pulsating 2-track light vest that had to be hidden in their gear, right? And then they would fight, and at a certain time, it would seethe and make them look like they were turning into fire because of anger. And then half of them were thrown 20 feet off of a ledge into a pit because they're fighting. And so the whole thing couldn't break. And they would have to get up and keep fighting, and the thing would have to be on. So that was challenging. That was challenging. Yeah, Marvel probably has a lot of the hardest things I've done. Ursula, when I moved her over to a world where she was more of an inflatable on ice, with the 2 system, and then this way we could bring her to the scale she really needed to be on the ice and not be so heavy. So that was a first for me quite a while ago. And it was just like I thought about it, and I really never focused on the idea that I had never done an inflatable before, which is good. And we found a company, and we got working, and they were fantastic. And now she glides on ice all the time. So yeah, again, not always just a pretty dress.
A lot of our viewers and listeners are very intrigued by the costume world, and some ask us like, how do you get in there? I want to try this too. Where should I start? What would be your advice for those people?
Well, the great thing to kind of see what all of the details of the job are and see what it's like is to really try and work in a costume shop. And then if your skill set, if you're doing a great job, what happens is more often than not, when a costume designer has a project and doesn't have enough people, or it's in another country and they need support in that country, but yet, they're somewhere else, they call the costume shop, they call their friends. I do all the time. And I say, oh my goodness, do you have someone who can do this and this and this, or who would be willing to do this, or maybe someone who like has a machine and she can come with me and we can create some stuff on the fly, and that's firsthand how you could really jump into it. Get near it, get near to the people who work there. You can, it's funny, it's an old-fashioned way. You can write to them online and email. My day, I wrote letters. So the one costume designer, famous one that I worked with here, a shop had said, oh, we just worked with her in Tarzan. She's amazing. She can do it. And I also had written out to her and said I admired her work. If ever she needed a hand, but that was different because I was already in the business. But I think the best way is really someone who's making clothes, and it doesn't have to be a costume shop, as tomorrow. It can actually just be a seamstress. The industry has changed so much since COVID that some of my big things, even just this past tour, I did with a rooted costume shop in New York. And to be honest, the other work came from a talented woman in Indiana who makes clothes, a smaller shop in Massachusetts that does a lot of stretch and bodysuits, and I needed her. And then another woman who is a master tailor that I met on a different job, and she's out of Texas. And none of this mattered. And we come together and make clothes. So I think that's my best advice.
So the big shift for you that you see after COVID is that more and more you get to work with local ateliers and local costume shops than only with the big brands.
Yes, it's so funny. Typically that's how it's always worked, sort of in the UK. It's always been, and actually over in Europe. Some were shops, but mainly it's more, we call it cottage industry style. It's more single people working and taking project work. And that was sort of rarer, I would say, in the States. And since COVID and sort of the shift of companies, and especially how closed certain states became, it forced everybody to find other people and other talent and do things differently. And it's funny, I thought, okay, it's going to start going back to how it was, and it has not. So I think that poses a lot of opportunity for young seamstresses and pattern makers or crafters that are curious about doing theatrical things or things for entertainment. Now's a great time for you. You just have to get the word out. But that's a huge trend.
And as you work all over the world, is it possible to combine it with family life? Do you actually know how many days you're at home?
I do. I'm actually home a lot. I have 2 kids. But it's again, I live in the right region so that I'm not away a lot. I live out in New York, which there's a great city, a lot of people I can create things with, and the way the world's connected with Zoom and everything, I don't go to as many shop visits as I used to, or I don't have to. It's still the best way to work. But if it's too difficult or costly or what have you for either party, there's new ways to get around it. So in general, most projects I create out of my home and I watch them, and maybe there's a meeting here or two. It's really just the install at the end, or I'll go for 4 days and fit the whole cast with everything. Tamara knows this. And then I'll go back and we'll all work. And then it's really just at the very end where you put the whole show together with all the departments. And then, so that can be a week or 10 days, but then it's done. So it works out, at least for me. I'm sure now TV, if I wanted to do TV all the time, I would need to be in LA, and and then I couldn't necessarily help out at the PTA at school. Uh, but I'm at a place where I can sort of weave the two together. And when you have great companies and people who are also pro family, they work with you. If I say, oh my gosh, I have a winter concert to go to on the 7th, I'll come on the 8th. Generally, that's okay. So it works out.
I'm curious, are any of your kids interested in costume world? Do you think maybe your son or daughter will follow in your footsteps?
Well, my son, my kids are artistic and of course love theater, which is a good thing. But this area behind me has been taken over. It was my library and where I kept paper. My daughter is my studio assistant, and that happened naturally in COVID when I was still working, and so I would teach her schooling, and then I would need to be up in the studio working, and so she just sort of naturally was by my side. And then as she's grown up, I took her on her first fitting trip this summer on site. So that was her first on site, which is just so wonderful to be able to show her what mommy does when I go those few days. I was able to do that with Disney with my son, so he's seen it. And she loves it. So who knows? She's a smart kid, but at least she'll know, art can be with her as a hobby. It can be with her, whatever. But yes, she's in the studio. She seems to be more of a draper though. I haven't taught her pattern work. She has her own mannequin. So we'll see.
Amazing. Curious to see her creations.
So you tell about your daughter, but do you also have other members of your close team, or is it just a couple of people?
Well, generally it was always me, and then internationally I'm lucky to have sort of the same team. When I come back to that area, like in Japan, I have 3 women that I've worked with in different capacities, and the same shops in Amsterdam. A lot of the same favorite associate I've been happy to have for everything. But just actually for the last 3 years, I did expand. So I have an amazing associate, Matthew, who is my other half and takes over a lot of the organization of it. And between the two of us now, we keep a small home team roster of assistants that can help him on projects, can help me, or when I launch a tour, we try to have 1 or 2 of them be on the wardrobe team. So it's like you're giving the creation to someone you actually know can take care of it and handle it, which becomes a really great thing for the producers, and also lessens the worry, for the creators. So it's still pretty close, but it sort of expands and contracts as the different projects are needed. So right now I'm in total design phase, so it's just Matthew and I, and then we'll start manufacturing probably November, and that'll be a few more people, and then we'll go to install that in February. Meanwhile, by then Japan will be fully designed and hopefully approved, and then that team will start sourcing, and then we'll bid out the work for it to be produced in Japan. So everything sort of has a cycle, and it kind of hopefully winds together so that we can attend to all of it as needed. So
Yeah, really lovely. One question I would love to ask you. Obviously, costumes, fashion is your passion in life. It's what you love doing. But if you wouldn't have ended up in this business, what would you be doing right now in life?
wow. So are we talking like
different job, like what?
different? Okay, so no entertainment whatsoever. So like abs. Okay. Because I always fail this test because I always am like, oh, I would be a milliner, or no, they're like, no, Cynthia, not doing what you do. Um, I don't know. I'm always making something. I'm always. I probably would want to run some sort of vintage store, and then I would do fancy murals in houses on the side to people who knew that I did that. Like it would be something not necessarily average, I guess. I don't know. It's very hard for me. Does that work? There you go. I mean, maybe that's my retirement plan. I don't know, but
I totally see that working out for you, because with the vintage, absolutely, that one, like, I definitely see that with you. And the murals, yeah, that's a cool answer. All right. Well,
what would you do? What would you do if you couldn't sew? If you had no machines, you could not sew.
Music was actually my first love in life, but by the time I was like 12 or 13, I figured out I wasn't good enough to become a professional, so maybe try and do something in music or dance or something like that. I guess something like that.
But that's still adjacent. That's a little adjacent. See, I tried to get like totally away.
Then probably painting. I love painting. I miss painting. Yeah.
I think I would have ended up in product development. I think like marketing and concept and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Magali is really good at developing new products, and think of ways to put them like out in the market and how to sell it to customers. She's so good at it. Yeah. So I totally see that for you too. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for sharing your story with us, for this chat in your very busy schedule in between shows. So thank you so much for being here and joining on this episode of our podcast.
Oh, my pleasure, Tamara. It was lovely to be on your show, and good luck with this huge endeavor. And all the best, and hopefully I'll be over there and we can have a visit.
Yeah, it would be lovely. I'm hoping you can work in Europe again, and then we'll have a good time catching up. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you.
And if our listeners or our viewers want to follow you, can they follow you on Facebook or Instagram or a certain website?
I'm on Instagram, Cynthia Nordstrom Designer. And my website is cynthianordstrom.com. So there you go.
Yeah, we'll definitely link it in the description of the video and the podcast and share it on our socials. Thank you so much for being here, Cynthia. Voilà, en daarmee kunnen wij afsluiten deze heel interessante, nieuwe, speciale gastaflevering met Cynthia. En ik zou zeggen, tot de volgende keer.
Vooraleer dat je vertrekt, wist je dat je ook deze video kan liken en een comment kan nalaten.
En uiteraard kan je ook abonneren op ons YouTube-kanaal. En je kan ook op het bel-icoontje klikken om een melding te ontvangen telkens er een nieuwe aflevering is, zodat je er geen enkele mist.
Maar je kan ons ook volgen op social media. Dit vind je terug op Instagram onder Sewing After Hours of de Fashion Basement en de Sewing Loft.